Shut up. Well, welcome to Raising the Cane.
Woo!
Hi, this is my.
Yay!
Hi,
Yay!
I'm Michael.
I'm Sandra. Hi.
Hi, and I'm Dr. Fate.
Okay,
Uh-oh.
they're coming to take you away. They're coming to take you away. Okay,
Guess who distorted?
okay. So anyway, it's been a lot in the news lately. Today marked the funeral of the Queen Elizabeth II, and happened to see some of the replays of it and the processions and everything. And so, at any rate, Maurice is giving you a little snippet of it. Let me see. Yeah, so there it is. It was obviously, it's a funeral, so it was somber, and obviously everyone has opinions about the monarchy and kings and queens and what have you. But it was a respectful service, so we'll keep it light here. They said it was the most watched probably event ever. Definitely funeral for sure, but event 4.1 billion, half the world uh,
Yes.
watched it. So it was something, and you could see the sense of loss in the country, in their country, and
Commonwealth. Yeah.
yeah, and so it's obviously a day to be remembered. And one thing I noticed was absent was, because I know they invited I don't know what it was, 108 dignitaries or something like that, and it was some large number, but they didn't really
As
profile
many
it.
as 500 is.
Maybe 500. You're right, 500. And they didn't. I know in prior funerals they, you kind of saw who was coming in, but maybe I missed that. I didn't, watch the whole thing. Obviously, it's a big time distance. But did you see the various dignitaries from all over the world coming to, they, like, how you do the Academy Awards or the Emmy Awards? They catch you on the red carpet and they stop you. Any
They're more dignified than that, and all of the prominent heads of state actually were brought in on a bus to Westminster Abbey, with the one exception being the President of the United States, who was permitted a dispensation of arriving by private passenger uh, vehicle.
okay.
Mm.
And I don't know how he warranted that particular privilege. Um,
I don't
yeah.
know. So we won't comment on that out of respect for the Queen and her family, and not go there, But it was very just very well displayed. Loss of words, obviously, as someone lost their mother, their grandmother, their sister, their friend,
Mother-in-law.
mother-in-law, friend, and so. Um, but it was well organized, definitely, and I heard it was, the security was very challenging as well. You have all
Mhm.
these dignitaries, and you have people that are there to keep them safe for nuts and crazy people and
Mhm.
stuff. And
And it was well planned. In fact,
yeah.
they had terms for the arrangements for each of the members of the royal family. And for Queen Elizabeth II, it was actually Operation London Bridge.
Mm,
Mm. Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
interesting. So yeah, so they said it was the uh, much larger than the Queen Mother and Princess Diana. It obviously, she's a queen, so you would expect it would be uh, uh, kind of an X factor there, you know,
Yeah.
as far as the presentation of it. So anyway, so now they King Charles III. So we'll see. Hopefully, he'll I'm sure he's going to. It was his mother, so I know it deep. The most impact was her children, obviously, but
Yes.
and I'm sure he'll exercise or display her memory in his decision making. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure, and yeah, it's just something that leading up to this, people were standing in line 24 hours. That was the minimum, I think, 24 hours to
Yes.
view her coffin and stuff.
And
What?
10-mile long lines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sandra, you were going to say something.
No, yeah, that was interesting that they said in the news that uh, King Charles is going to start effective tomorrow, assuming, the responsibilities as a king, but the coronation could take up to 3 months from now.
Yes.
So it'll probably be until probably next year. So that was interesting,
Yeah.
that it will take that long, 3 months or more.
So much planning and
Mhm.
logistics and
Yeah,
organization.
yeah, and probably a lot of
Yes.
invitations to world leaders, probably, and that they I'm sure are booked up months in advance as well. So
Mhm.
give
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully, the raising our invitations for as Raising the Cane podcast hosts won't be lost in the mail like they were to so many other events.
Yes.
yeah. So, but like the movie Wedding Crashers, well, we could have
We're the coordination crashers.
Coronation Crashers and say, who are these people? As we
Hey,
go
we're the-
kicking and screaming, we're raising a cane. Who you know who we are? You know
so
who I am?
you
Okay,
know who I am.
raising the cane.
We're with
Yeah.
Meghan Markle.
And
We're, we're part of Meghan Markle's family.
okay, let's move on. I can comment to that.
You
If
know,
Maurice is
if
gonna be
I were
jumping.
you, I wouldn't give my name if I were you. Okay.
you know,
But anyway, test that
officially,
fate and see what happens. But
my
anyway,
name is.
let's move on. Let's move on before they come pick you up while we're on raising the cane. I'm gonna save you from yourself. Sometimes people can't save themselves, and it takes other people. So I'm gonna help you.
Save
We're go,
me.
we're gonna change the subject before you get in trouble.
That was the theme
And so,
song to Smallville. Remember?
yeah, no, I don't remember. So we're gonna move on.
You didn't watch it.
We're gonna move on. So anyway, um, I want to bring up something. We always typically we bring up movies and entertainment, and I want to bring a controversy that shouldn't be a controversy. This thing about there can be no black little mermaids with some idiots out there. And this
That's
is raising the cane. So we're gonna do what's right. And if you believe there could be no black little mermaids, then something's wrong with you. Why is
I
this
haven't
even
seen
an
any
issue?
mermaid.
It's like, no, my point is find a whatever color and race of your choice mermaid, please, please, please. They made a mermaid up. It's a made up thing, so it could be any color,
how do
any
you
Yeah,
race.
know? How do you know it's a made up?
Yeah.
They could be
yeah, that's
actual
right.
So
mermaids
Yeah,
out
so
you're,
there.
so
you're so intolerant.
until someone shows me it's
Sure.
made up. So and
Don't
it's
be
like
Michael.
so
Don't be mythophobic.
so
Don't be
okay,
Yes, yeah, there you
mythophobic.
go. There
So
you go.
so
Yeah,
and why did it,
protesting.
yeah,
I believe in
so
mermaids.
okay, okay, that's good.
That's
But
right.
that's it.
Why
That's
not?
I'm glad to hear you. So I
Exactly.
want to for let's give a little background. Okay, next the mermaid was a animated Disney feature. Now it's going to be a live action, and they selected a black female to play the lead role of, what is it, Ariel, I guess, a Little
Yes,
Mermaid.
Ariel.
And
Yeah.
so when they announced that, it for some reason it caused people to be in pain and suffering mode, that she's not white, Caucasian, okay, and whatever, red hair and whatever color eyes that they think she should be. And so it made me immediately think, Maurice, when we went to a Star Trek convention many years ago with, and it was, and there was a Q&A. It must have been 1 to 2,000 people in this hall at the convention center. I think it
Yeah,
was the
huge.
Anaheim Convention Center. I'm, you know, to plug them. They're not endorsing the show, but the panel asked, okay, whatever questions, people stood up to the microphone and gave the question. Well, another idiot came up and says, concerning Deep Space Nine, there can't be a black Vulcan. There can't be a Mr. Spock, a black version of a Vulcan with pointy ears from, outer space. It's impossible. They shut this guy down. Oh my God, he didn't have flesh left on him when they got through.
Yeah, yeah, and
He,
justifiably so.
yeah, he got filleted when he
Yeah,
went up there as stupid as he could be, idiot as he could be. There could be no black Vulcan in the Star Trek universe, cinematic universe.
yeah. He really betrayed his inner bigotry
Mhm,
and intolerance and lack of imagination, particularly as you said, when you're talking about mythological or fictitious
mhm.
beings, whether it's rooted in science fiction, fantasy, folklore, mythology, or any other type of genre or medium, whether TV or cinema or plays. And in fact, uh, one of the advantages of living within the last 3 to 4 decades is the opening up of the worlds of imagination to persons who may have more than the historic amount of pigment in their complexions. In fact, some time ago, DC uh, introduced Black Kryptonians.
Right.
And in one of the alternate worlds, um, Val Zod is Black Superman. And there's another one, Calvin Ellis, who is a Superman of another parallel Earth. And his secret identity is the President of the United States. So he's both the commander in chief.
So they double down.
They double down.
Double down. That
Yeah,
ought to piss a lot of those same kind of folks off. Yeah, I'm sure.
I believe so.
And we've been brainwashed for so many years because in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, blacks and other minorities, if they were shown or and in these films or TV shows, it's discriminatory. They could only play certain roles: maids, butlers, cooks, the porter and the elevator, shoe shine boy, man, whatever, uh,
Pimps.
pimps, drug dealers, just all over the place. It was always in a negative light. And if it was positive, they as positive as could be, it was some sort of stereotype and buffoonery that they
Yeah,
had to display. And I won't
yeah,
name them out because these were pioneers in these minorities. They did the job. They could only get hired, and they laid the way and paved the way for everyone that followed them. So I'm not going to fault them. Like some people want to attack them. That's all they could do is play a mammy or a maid. What
right.
was they supposed to? That's what they were called to do, to be an actor, actress, and they paved the way so uh uh people could be included. They helped us be included in, and it was in a system that was ordinarily discriminatory. So the same in sports and celebrities all over the place. Jackie Robinson, Jesse Owens, Muhammad Ali, right? Just keep going.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Sonny Liston, just go on and on and on and on. If it wasn't for all of these heroes and sheroes, that the powers that be would still have us locked up or doing sharecropping, 10 in the field, most likely. And God forbid we pick up a book and go to school. They stopped us from trying to go to school. They stopped us this is like a civil rights show right now. So they,
Yeah,
it's
You
like
yeah,
know,
it. Yeah, go ahead, Sandra.
what I think we're seeing is an evolution and a change in culture. And, we're being taught all what you're saying throughout all of history, uh, bigotry, egos. But now you're seeing that now with the millennials, with the Generation Zs, now all of this, you're seeing now gay being accepted more,
Hmm.
lesbian being accepted more, uh, you know, interracial couples, you're seeing more and more. So
Hmm.
I think that what you're seeing is now with the Little Mermaid, this is not for the people that are used to discriminating, for the ones that they're, to be honest with you, is gonna be going in the past. More
right.
and more, those generations are dying,
That's
and the
true.
new ones are coming. So
Right.
with this movie, to me, is the beginning of that era in which that discrimination is gonna be, history. And I
Yeah,
pray for that. And I really think that that's what the true freedom and liberation that is going to happen. So to me, I am so glad that they're coming more and more to that. For us, we still may have a little bit, concerns of certain issues that are showing more, now in movies. Personally, there's some things that I don't agree with, but at the same time, I have to have my mind open for these generations, our future generations that are going to have a mind more opened and more willing to accept other people as they are.
Right.
Because to
yeah,
be honest to be honest, I mean, who are we to judge other because of their stature, because of their class, because of their color, because of where you were born? So it is becoming more and more open, and to me, that's what we're moving to. So
Yeah.
hopefully with this, again, I'm embracing that movie, and I think that is good, that is being put out there. I want my grandchildren in the future to have a mind of, accepting everybody as who they are, to be, uh, everybody has the right. Each one have a right to live. Each one have a right of opinion. Each one has a right to live with dignity and respect. And I believe that that's what we're moving to. And you know, I'm
Hmm.
praying for to
Yeah.
continue that way. Also, to respect each other. So that's another thing that I would love to instill in people, is to respect each other's right.
Yeah.
That's true
that's right.
peace.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is refreshing, and I was just thinking not only the Black Vulcan thing, okay, D Space Nine, but I was thinking even going back to Charlton Heston with the Ten Commandments, and also the lot of the westerns and stuff. In particular, one whose airport is named after him. We won't have to mention his name here, but in Orange County, California, and
Mm.
westerns where they couldn't use real Native Americans. They had to use people and put a black face or brown face on them to make you believe that they're Native American or they're black, but they were, they weren't. It's just ridiculous. It's like you really couldn't find like 10 black people or 10 Americans, the natives, to to play these roles, and
Yeah.
and just like a Amos and Andy, kind of thing. But you know what? The minorities, again, they did all they could do. And growing up in our time era, that we were thinking, I think you, hopefully you thought it too, that wow, didn't black people or minorities make it to the 22nd or the 23rd century? I mean,
Oh
you
yeah,
you would think it was you cannot find any minorities uh in these films that were science fiction that talked about the future. And if you did find one or two, it was like one or two, and that was the one that got killed or blown up. He didn't never survive
Right.
the whole movie.
Stereotype.
Yeah,
In fact,
Yes, yeah.
in
yeah,
fact,
yeah.
uh, if you read comic books in the golden, silver, and early Bronze Ages, which is how they characterize the history of American comic books, it was very monochromatic. Well, you're more likely to see someone green or blue or fire engine red than you were uh, someone who was reflective of any of the contemporary planet Earth's uh, complexion of humanity. And in fact, I'll give credit to Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, who introduced T'Challa, the Black Panther,
Hmm.
in 1966 in the pages of the Fantastic Four. And that character actually preceded the historical Black Panther Party that was founded in Oakland, California,
Hmm.
by a few
Mm,
months in the same year, 1966. And even then, though, there was this tokenization that it had to be something sub-Saharan African in a fictitious kingdom of Wakanda. And it wasn't until, you have the early 70s with Luke Cage, hero for hire in Marvel comic books. And even then, it was somewhat a stereotypical origin because he was a convict who had
wow.
been serving a sentence that was wrongfully imposed upon him in a penitentiary. And he acquired superhuman strength and indestructibility from an experimentation upon him in which prisoners could have their sentences reduced if they volunteered. And then the Falcon, who now everybody knows um, from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, um, was a partner of Captain America later on. So it's much better now, where you
Yeah,
actually have
yeah.
Storm of the X-Men who can control weather patterns and fly,
Hmm.
and you have all these additional characters, and in fact, villains as well, because that's very important. In fact, I want to shout out to Tony Todd, who helped
Oh yeah,
pioneer Black supernatural villainy in
yeah.
the original
Candyman,
Candyman.
Candyman,
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not saying that three times.
I've never
Candyman.
seen it.
If you
In
say it
fact,
for our viewers and listeners, if you say Candyman three times, he came and killed you.
yeah, Richard
So
Gere
yeah,
too.
I'm not
No
even
way.
playing with that. Not even playing with that. Yeah,
No,
it's like
don't take
eh,
any chances.
no, no, no. But anyway,
Uh,
so yeah, there's been a lot of advancement, and so it's good to see. Like Sandra was saying, we're in an era, and our era and before that were racist and discriminatory. They're dying off. You're dying off. New era,
no,
and and Little Mermaid could be whatever race and religion or whatever. Really, don't take it that serious, folks. Don't take it
yeah,
that serious. Oh, how dare Disney? How dare they? I will not go to Disneyland again. Don't. They'll. I'm sure they won't miss 20,000 people not going to their parks. I'm sure they can
and you know what's
survive that.
interesting? What's interesting
Yeah.
is that many of the critics of the Afrocentric interpretation of the Little Mermaid will provide examples like, what if Ryan Reynolds portrayed Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. or Malcolm X? But it's a ridiculous comparison because no one is talking about race swapping historical characters in the 21st century
Hmm.
entertainment sphere. We're talking about, as you and Sandra have already stated quite directly and eloquently, fictitious beings
Mhm.
that, mm-hmm, that, mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm,
Hmm.
mm-hmm, 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 really are subject to, uh, uh, multiversal interpretation, if you will. I mean, now, having said that, although I do like Idris Elba, and he's one of my go-to actors in almost anything, whether it's a theatrical release or a Netflix production, um, or BBC TV
Yeah.
series where he portrayed Luther. The only quibble I potentially have, and it's not a disqualifying one, is when he portrayed Heimdall in the Thor films. And partly it's because the deities of Asgard are the gods and goddesses, basically, of the Vikings.
Mm.
So you're saying find a black Viking.
Yeah, so that now
Okay.
I'm not calling for any boycott, and obviously I didn't practice it because I spent um probably the equivalent of hundreds of dollars on any movie featuring Heimdall portrayed by Idris Elba. But it did strike a chord in that sense, and I think that's a little different than some of these other examples. I mean, now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they they kind of gloss over some of the origins of the Asgardians. They treat them more or less like just extraterrestrials who could be anything.
Mm.
Mhm.
Um, so I mean, so that's a minor exception that I would have, because basically when people create deities, it's usually in their own image. So the gods of the Yorubas in what is now Nigeria would all tend to be dark complected.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the gods and goddesses and other beings in imperial China obviously would reflect uh, the characteristics of the dominant peoples of that particular uh,
Culture.
country or kingdom or principalities, because at different times China has been divided. It's been imperial, it's been republican, it's been communist, um, and include the complexities of Hong Kong and Macau, and arguably Taiwan, which is probably political kryptonite to even mention that. Um, so it's kind of interesting, is what we create in our own images. In other words,
Mhm.
I mean, one could bring out the Egyptian pantheon, and they tend to be more um, hybridized, and that they generally have the heads and characteristics of other animals.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
Like,
based on, yeah,
yeah, like Horus,
Egypt.
whose head was
Horus. I
that of
was
the
thinking
falcon.
about him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Mhm.
So it's interesting. So we'll see how that goes. But I think it's a non-issue. I think the bulk of people will see Little Mermaid regardless. And I think they'll still make a whole lot of money on it, you know.
Yeah. Hey, why
But
not Big Mermaid? Why couldn't you have somebody who is like plus sized? Why does it
Yeah.
have to be little?
Yeah. That's
You know,
another thing. That's
I
another.
mean, why not different shapes and sizes? You
yeah,
know,
Yeah.
and I think that's fair. I don't think by gender uh people should be left out, or race, or size, whether you're tall or
Mhm.
short, or you know it shouldn't matter, the acting and the portrayal. And I understand
Mhm.
when we do historical pieces, you want someone that looks like Abe Lincoln. I get it.
yeah.
And if you're doing a thing on Martin Luther King, you want someone that, okay, or Aretha Franklin, you want someone that sounds like them, sort of looks like them more than the most people. So I get
Or,
that too, and that may be
or
some
Bruce Lee.
legitimacy. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
And
some
I think
legit. Yeah,
is to be more realistic, right? Just
yeah.
because we, like you
If it's
said,
a, it's, yeah,
we create an image based on our image. We want always
yeah,
to compare. And it's interesting because I was listening to, we were talking with Michael about that, that if in true a mermaid exists, it will be darker because the ocean,
yeah. They were saying the experts are saying
that's
the
right.
yeah,
oceans. Yeah,
the
yeah.
in the ocean, that's what you were saying, is in the ocean, the fish are not white. I mean, it will
That's right.
have to be something, for
Hmm.
the deep, it will not be completely white. But so
Yeah,
that's another interesting aspect that we were
just yeah,
talking
just like
about.
yeah, and just like yeah, like I
Exactly.
was referring to the Ten Commandments. You're in the Middle East or Africa, you know, these people were darker. I mean, the real ones,
Yeah,
and they weren't like just real light skin. No offense to people that are real light skin, but I mean, you're in
right.
sub-Saharan Africa or Egypt, you're on the darker side in the Middle East. So
Yeah, and that's
you
the
know,
same argument that they have about
yeah,
the image that we portray
yeah,
Jesus, with
yeah,
the Middle
it's
East is a
yeah,
little bit.
and
Yeah,
So, but
yeah, so they, a lot of history and probably the facts were, we just were not misled. We were lied to growing up in school. They just covered it up,
mhm, mhm,
just
yeah,
like how we found out it was because of several black women that did mathematical calculations that helped them get to outer space, to the moon.
that's right.
And
Yeah,
they covered that up for what, 40, 50 years. So
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
Hidden
shame.
Figures.
Hidden
Yeah,
Figures is the movie, and then if it wasn't for that, we still wouldn't have known.
yeah,
Yes,
like Miss
yeah.
Jameson.
Yeah, so
Um,
it's a shame that they covered up
Hmm.
the real history. There should be, in this case, a revisionist history books would be in order.
You
Of
know,
the history books we grew up with should be thrown away and burned.
yeah, it's unfortunate that you didn't have enough historians that just simply valued the truth and objectivity, because it's really not a matter of affirmative action or of diversity for its own sake or for creating representation for young boys and girls to view and internalize dreams by having role models presented to them. It's really just presenting the factual circumstances of a reality that existed apart from subjectivity and perception and even prejudice, because there are certain uh, aspects of the world that really do not depend upon our conviction in their existence. I mean, you could say, I don't believe in the law of gravity, and that centrifugal force, that means nothing to me. And who cares about ultraviolet radiation? But I think you can see people with sarcomas. I think people that, just like fall off a couch. And I think people that are in an amusement park ride that spins around at uh, various speeds will know that all those principles exist,
mhm,
whether you believe it or not. It has some kind of,
Yeah,
it's not phenomenological. It's not a construct merely of your own uh, creation and capacity to imagine something, which would actually account for the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Little Mermaid and uh, uh, Star Trek and Star Wars and Babylon 5, Middle Earth and Westeros and various other uh, imaginary kingdoms and universes. There are things that are real,
mhm.
and and I think it's because of the willful blindness and cover-ups and concealments. That's why you have all these special months, like Black History Month,
Hmm.
Hispanic Heritage Month, Asian American and Pacific Islander Month. You have all of these particular compartmentalized uh, parts of the calendar because they weren't teaching all of history. Because if you really just taught history, there really shouldn't be that many divisions of it within a particular country. And like if you had American history, then it would just be
Right.
everybody here. You wouldn't have to have February, which is Black History Month, because originally that was like Negro History Week.
Wow.
Dr. Woodson was one of the creators for it, and they chose February because it's the month in which the great emancipator, the 16th president of the United States, Honest Abe Lincoln, was born. And so it was selected specifically for that purpose and that reason. But you don't, see history in a particular country, because I mean, you would still have Russian history, Mexican history, French history, and so on. I'm not going to name all, 200 plus countries in the world, but you get the idea. So if you had history in a particular country, it would just cover all of the developments and discoveries, inventions, crises, conflicts, wars, culture of everyone in the country. You wouldn't have to divide it. It would all be taught.
You're right.
Right.
So, at any rate, I want to make a correction. I just caught myself. I was incorrect. It's not Deep Space Nine. It was
It's
Star Trek
Voyager.
Voyager. Well,
It's
I was
Voyager.
about saying it.
Well,
Star
I
Trek
didn't want to
Voyager.
interrupt you. I didn't
Star
want to.
Trek Voyager.
I knew what you were getting at.
Yeah.
It didn't. So
So
it seemed to be rude and unnecessary to
so
interrupt
so
you while
yes.
you're saying
Well, I
it.
caught my
Yeah.
own error. Star Trek
Yeah.
Voyager. I thought about it. Say, wait a second. That's Avery Brooks, who played the captain of the station, and Tuvok, the guy that played it, yeah, was Star Trek Voyager,
Because
right?
he served under Janeway.
Right, Captain Janeway. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking about it. I said, wait a second. He's not on Deep Space Nine. It's like he's on Star Trek Voyager, which lasted a while, and that was something to have a female captain.
That's
So
what it was.
I
and
remember.
and so
Yeah.
so females are caught up into this race thing too, where
Oh,
okay, you can't
yes.
have a woman in the future command a Star Trek spaceship, and so yeah, you can by Captain Janeway. So they were pioneers in that, saying yeah, females and minorities made it to the future, to the where they can do things, just like anybody else.
In fact, Michael Dorn, who portrayed Worf
Right.
in
On
both,
generation, yeah.
yeah, and he was also Deep Space Nine, because he started at
Right. He
Star
was
Trek Next
transferred. Yeah,
Generation, and he was transferred to Star Trek Deep Space Nine,
correct.
serving aboard the space station under Captain Sisko, as you mentioned, who was portrayed by the great Avery Brooks,
Right.
who was also previously to that Hawk. Remember?
Right. Yeah, with what's his name? I can't remember the other actor that died.
Michael Urich,
Michael Urich. And that was nice. That was a
who
good
was
show.
one of the Michael Urich was possibly the most prolific television actor in the 1970s. I mean, he was on so many shows. He was
Right.
Dantana.
I remember Dantana. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
And,
Spencer for Hire.
yeah, and it's funny when they called Hawk, which was Avery Brooks. That means that it was already too late for you, because man,
That's right.
he took you out. He
He
just
took you
like
out.
took you out, took you
Yeah.
out. He
Great
raised that
character.
pinky. You were gone.
Yes.
He was like, he
Yeah.
says, buddy, I need your help. I got a problem. Well, who is he? What do you need me to do? Think it's over.
Yeah.
Show was
Hawk,
over after that. Yeah.
yeah. In fact, when you think about it, Hawk was almost the prototype of Mouse, who was portrayed by Don Cheadle in the guess it's the devil wears
Devil in a
blue
what
dress.
is it? Devil in a blue dress.
Yeah,
He left. Yeah, Denzel Washington played the main character,
Easy Rollins
Easy Rollins, which is based on a novel series of novels,
by Walter Mosley.
Walter Muzzy. And so when he and so when the guy he comes back, the guy's dead. He says, "Well, he says, well, why'd you kill him? Well, I thought, well, why'd you know who I am? That's why I thought you wanted because you left him with me. So
Exactly.
because he's a
Oh
killer,
my
so he
Yeah,
killed the guy. He killed the
yeah,
guy,
because that's who he
and
is. That's what he does.
that's who I am. Why'd you leave
Yeah,
him if you didn't want me to kill him? And
yeah,
so, um, so anyway, let's move on. So this is interesting topics about movies. This is actually comics and movies.
yeah.
But by the way, I saw somewhere, I think I sent it to you through Messenger. You don't have to look at it now, where you can invest in the first edition and comic book for Batman and Robin. Edition one came out, I think, in 1940. So you have they're looking for investors to do whatever with that. So that was interesting.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, yeah, I did see that.
well, yeah,
And Batman operated solo before they introduced Robin, because Batman as his own character was introduced in Detective Comics 1939,
right.
Wow.
about a year after Superman premiered Action Comics #1 in 1938. And Robin wasn't necessarily universally accepted because uh, Bruce Wayne's dark cowled crusader was himself a creation of the night. And now you have this teenage boy dressed in red, yellow, and green, who is probably should be in school or and
Yeah.
in bed instead of fighting psychopaths.
Well, they primarily, I guess they talked it away when, at night, so he was at school during the day. He's a crime fighter at night with his little tights on. Yeah.
Yeah, but
So,
Bruce Wayne could get away with it, because he's a billionaire industrialist playboy. And so if you don't see him during the day, well, you just figure he's just out, squiring the ladies. And he just sleeps during the day. But a young boy's got to be in school. And that was not during the heyday of homeschooling. So he had to be in class.
Yeah, that was
Didn't get enough sleep.
interesting.
so anyway,
I know.
he
To
paid people to take,
study.
he paid people off
Yeah.
to take his test for him. So he was
Oh, he,
his
he wouldn't do that. He
adoptive
wouldn't.
daddy was rich and then Batman. So
He
he
wouldn't
got,
do that. No, they wouldn't do that.
yeah. So anyway, wouldn't do it. Just
He wouldn't do that.
wouldn't do it, huh?
No.
Yeah.
So
Two-Face might
anyway,
do it. The
so,
Riddler might do it. Catwoman might do it, but not Batman.
okay.
Okay.
So anyway, let's change the subject. Proposition 27 in California. There's Proposition 26 and 27. 27, both of them want sports betting in California, but 26 wants it in person, and as opposed to 27, because 27 they want to partner with the big casinos, probably out of Vegas, to do online, to expand the online betting, sports betting world. And so for the big casinos to offer sports betting in California, if it passes, they have to partner with one of the tribes.
That's
And
correct.
so now there are tribes for Proposition 27, most likely the ones that are already probably partnered or will partner with the big casinos. And there's allegedly 50 tribes against it. Now, one of the carrots here for Proposition 27, they said 85% of the tax revenue of the gambling will go to homeless entities or government or nonprofits to help the homeless crisis, and 15% of that tax will go to non-gaming tribes. So this is probably to feed them something to kind of go away and let us pass this thing. We'll give you 50% of the tax on the revenue. So in 26, focus is to have in-person sports gambling. And the folks for 26 says 27 is they're responsible, because how do you know a 13-year-old can't be up there on their Apple or Android gambling on if the Lakers or baseball, whatever football team, soccer team, if they win or lose? How do you know it's not a minor underage, under 21, using your online system? So there we go.
I
Well,
think then we talked about in the last that we did, it was on that. But to me, it's like, okay, 85% is for homeless and 15% is for who else?
The non-gaming tribe.
The
So you
non-gaming
don't,
drive.
so you're not pachanga. You don't have a casino in your tribe.
So what's in it for them? I mean, where is?
Well, that's the whole point. If you were if you're on the 27 side, well, look, I'm we're going to give you 15%. We're going to give you 15% of the tax revenue.
And 85% is for
Homeless.
the homeless. So
homelessness and
that's,
for
I'm like,
and gambling addiction programs. So that's 80 to 85% is divided amongst homelessness and gambling addiction programs. Because what it would do is there'd be this fund that would be called the California Online Sports Betting Trust Fund, COSBTF. And that's where it would go. And then see, like Michael said, like the 15% for the non-gaming tribes, see, they could use that for their own purposes. Like they could use it for government, health, economic development, roadway improvement in the reservations, even their own educational system within the Indian tribe uh, governance.
mhm.
Now we're, basically, I think, somewhat libertarian when it comes to gambling. People tend to want to do it and do more of it. And presently, sports gambling and betting is not lawful in the state outside of, tribal gambling, card rooms, horse racing. So this would just kind of expand it, and legalize it, kind of like what's been done with, recreational cannabis, um, which technically is not supposed to be sold to underage people either. I mean, kids are prevented from doing so much. I mean, they can't buy alcohol. They're not allowed to vape anymore. Um, they basically cannot operate most types of heavy machinery. But I don't think the risk to minors should prevent me from exercising my rights. I mean, just because people have parents that are fooled and bamboozled doesn't mean that my rights should be curtailed. So let's say, Sally Sue stays out until 2 a.m. doing heaven knows what. And because of her, I can't bet on the Dallas Cowboys. Come on. We didn't defeat Hitler and Mussolini and the Japanese militarists so that somebody can stop me from doing what I want to do. And I'm definitely over the age of 18. Take care of your kids. Don't prevent me from exercising my rights.
Yeah.
If I want to bet my money, let me bet my money.
Okay. I think. By the way, that wasn't my tail. That was Lua's tail. If you saw a tail just past me, that was a
Yours is a
cat
bit larger.
in my head. So anyway, I think Sandra begs to differ from you about the
Well,
underage.
to me, here is the situation. To me, my concern is those little kids like 13, 14 that are clever enough to be able to do it, whether the parents know or, about the situation.
Yeah.
And I understand that is the parent's responsibility. To me, is the community. Kids are raised not just for parents. Community has a lot to do to bring up good citizens. And if this is something that is going to prematurely, start a habit that could be prevented, I understand the rights, but to me it's like, okay, we have decided that uh everybody's right. It's at what, 18 and then 21, and when it comes to consuming alcohol and all of that. So if we have already in created laws for that reason, and there's a reason behind it, then we should also ensure that these kids, 9, 10, I'm seeing 11 years old, they're already, they're in their phones all the time.
That's
We're
true.
having an issue with one of in our relatives that the kid is staying at night 2 to 3 in the morning, and the parents think that they're is okay, doesn't want to get up in the morning to go to school. But that will create more stress on parents, because they have to go to work, they have to sleep, unless they have cameras in these kids, so there's a lot more. And I do believe that everybody have the right to exercise what they want to do. I believe me, I agree. But it is also as a responsibility, as a citizen,
Mhm.
as a community member, that I believe that all of us as a community have a sense of responsibility for the young generations to be able to do better, to be able to have a better future, so that we can have good leaders in the future. So I think as a community, there's a little bit of responsibility. So because of that, I think that I'm more into not no to 27, but I still am, I'm I'm understanding, I'm trying to read more about that. Now, the other thing that I believe that that's why they want 26 is because more and more everything is going towards computerized. And to me, I believe that that's the future. Everything is going to be uh, from home. That's the
Yeah.
future, and inevitably, it most likely is going to go for that, because the millennials, the new one, the new generations are doing that. But again, there's warnings, there's concerns as an adult, you know, uh, that I have seen so many people be destroyed by bad habits. That's what this is coming from. 26, I think that what they're saying is, okay, if people do not come anymore to casinos in person, if you come in person, most likely you are to spend more money into the roulettes, the machines, the poker tables. You most likely will stop by and do other things. If you just doing the internet, what is it gonna bring to the casino? So I
Sure.
think that they're also thinking about that. Now, which ones of the two is the better or the worse? That's what we're trying to decide. But again, that's my opinion.
No, I agree with you that about the kind of the community's standpoint. Now, there are some of the fundamental household oriented decisions that could be done. Like basically, you take your kids mobile devices when they're supposed to be sleeping. So you take their tablets, their smartphones, and laptops, and they don't get access to it until they wake up in the morning to go to school.
I want to add one to that in your list, Maurice, that you're about to do to address what Sandra said. Put on your list, don't give a 15-year-old $300 at one
That's true.
time. How's that?
That's true.
Put that on your list. And then they need another 202 days from that.
Yeah, because basically, with these systems, you have to kind of demonstrate that you be able to pay in order to wager. And you still have all of these mechanisms that are probably easier to implement, where you have to kind of establish that you're of age and that you can lawfully make bets because you're 21 years of age or older. But just like conducting various other transactions that we do through our desktops, laptops, tablets, smartphones, whether we're paying our mortgage, whether we're transferring funds, whether we're wiring money and everything else that we have been routinely doing now since at least the late 1990s, as we entered the age of digitalization and the internet and roaming about the World Wide Web. Now, I completely agree that gambling addiction can be a horrific scourge. And that's like being connected to certain controlled substances, and it changes the wiring in the brain, and you get those endorphins and that dopamine, and you find it difficult to resist.
Right.
And in fact, it's somewhat explanatory of overeating and alcoholism. And food and alcohol can be purchased almost anywhere in the United States. You go to 7-Eleven, you can buy a 6-pack, and you could eat almost anything there. I wouldn't recommend, the week-old burritos from AMPM.
Don't call them out. Oh man, you done named them. Don't put a name to that. Man, it's like we gotta stop your recording here.
But I think that there are certain issues that we grapple with, and they're going to be eternal because there are people I have helped who voluntarily self-banned themselves from wagering in some of the existing tribal casinos in the Inland Empire. And you know how you do it. See, basically you recognize either directly or perhaps through some loved one that it's not working out for you. You're wagering too much of your disposable income, and so it starts eating into what you require for your necessities of living.
I'm sure you're not talking about me.
No, I'm not talking about you. I didn't know you had a problem.
I didn't know you had a problem. Certain loved ones.
No, I'm talking about non-Michael people. And you basically put yourself on this list.
You want me to do the altar call? Come up to the altar. Okay.
Come to the altar.
The altar call. Do the altar call. Go. You gonna walk with me? You gonna walk with me to the altar?
I'll walk with you.
Walk with you. Oh, can you walk? Can you walk with me? Okay, can you walk with me?
You know something? You can bet on it. But
I did an altar call before. They took me in the back room. Hey, come on, go in the back.
Was that somebody with the middle initial K?
Let's move on.
I know, but I think that obviously it's profit driven, I mean, you read,
Yes, it is.
you
Yeah.
know, yeah, you read the people who are on the Yes on Proposition 27 committee, and they include uh, FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM. Uh, they could include the Middletown Rancheria of Pomo Indians, the Big Valley Band of Pomo Indians, the and so on. Um,
Okay.
and you have
Yeah.
the mayors of Fresno, Sacramento, Oakland, and Long Beach are in favor of it. Major League Baseball's in favor of it. You
Yeah,
know,
because they're gonna make millions of dollars, all of these people.
yeah. And you
Yeah.
Yeah,
know
the
who's
major
opposed to it?
leagues.
They're gonna
Yeah, because
even
they
the
want you to.
mayors, they're gonna make millions in their
Yeah,
cities.
but you know
I
something?
think
There's nothing that exists that you have to pay for, which is not profit driven in some way. The only things maybe air and sunlight, because water, you don't get water for free. You got to pay some regulatory agency to get water in your house. And if you get bottled water, now and then some charity gives you bottled water, but those are made by companies.
Mhm.
You know, they take
so.
water from lakes, rivers, and springs, and they put
Mhm.
it in plastic.
Let's
So
hear.
this,
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead, Sandra. Sandra has something.
No, no, that I was saying, yeah, I know that Pechanga, one of the tribes in southern uh close to San Diego, they're
Temescal.
against they're against it. And so I'm thinking about what is the overall goodness for the entire Native Americans, not just the ones that have casinos, but what about everybody? To me, that's more of an issue to me, is what are they going to do to help everyone?
Well, I
uh
think Proposition 27, they're giving them 15% of the redirecting 15% of the tax dollars will go to the non-gaming, non-casino tribes. They're just delivering that to them. So they're not earning it.
15%.
Yeah. So, but when you say 15% of $1 billion, hey, you know,
that's real money. I
yeah.
mean, in
Yeah,
fact, I'm gonna
yeah.
change my name to Feather Chief Feather Tree. Get me a piece of that. I'll be your pachanga. Give me some money.
I'm sure there's some black tribe we could associate ourselves with somewhere.
You guys are
So
so
man,
Give me some.
yeah,
terrible.
yeah.
That's
I
their
can,
reparations.
yeah, I
That's their
know.
reparations.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. We talked
Yeah.
about discrimination. We can hit the
Give me.
discrimination to these groups that they hit us for too long. They hit us for too long.
Hey, do you know, hey, this is an interesting fact.
I,
This is
I
not just
wonder if there's a Salvadorian.
why
Well,
not? Why not? Everybody can get a piece of it. But you know something? There were Native American tribes that owned black slaves, like the Cherokees.
Yes, yes. No,
really?
no, no defense. By the way, for those y'all trying to come up with the defense, there's none. They own black slaves. Okay, let's try to spin this one.
That's right.
I think
Represent.
I
We
think
we
in
gave them
every
organic food, right?
let,
We gave them organic
let,
food off the
to
land.
me everybody, when it came to the slavery, I
Yeah.
mean when it was happening that Native Americans were slaves, they also got the Hispanics. So I mean it was all over. It was, to me, it's a power over the rest, like the Spaniards went to all the Mayans and all of that, destroy, got slaves from them too. So I think that it was chaos in all cultures. There's all of that. It's just that we have to be cognizant about that each one in their own had their suffering in that sense, but
Yeah.
not to diminish what you're saying. It's just that I'm
Mm.
adding to the fact that it was in every culture. There was some sort of abuse and taking over, like the Spaniards, the English, all of that. Look what they did to Scotland. I mean, I don't want to go through, especially now with England going through what they're going through, but it was horrible. It's
Yeah.
horrible what they did. In the fact is, human beings, not to go again, all blacks, Mexicans, or Asians, human beings. We're talking about human beings, not just stereotyping too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah, Maurice, you were gonna say something about as a fact about something.
No, it was about the Cherokee.
Oh, that was it. Okay, that was
Yeah,
it.
that was
Okay.
it. But I think that when you're talking about gambling, and just since the 1980s, we've definitely expanded it. I mean, because remember, it was a proposition in California in the mid 80s, which authorized the creation of the state lottery and the commission. Of course, it was justified and sold because it would mean that public schooling in the state of California
yeah,
would be benefited. But every year since then, we've always had bond measures because they don't have enough money.
exactly. So
So
where is
that was
that?
that's oversold. But basically, the rule of thumb I follow is that if a governor, a state senator, assemblyman, a councilman, a U.S. senator, member of the House of Representatives says anything, basically look for their crossed fingers, and because basically they're selling you a bill of goods. People are always worried about robber barons and capitalists and people who are selling you this service or commodity or investment. But for some reason, these elected officials and their bureaucratic vassals are given a free pass. Everybody says, oh, believe them. They are public servants. They have your best interests at heart. Well, we know otherwise. I mean, once I think you get over the age of 12 and you didn't, suffer traumatic brain injury, or you weren't born with fetal alcohol syndrome, you tend to know the real world at some point. And that those smiling faces, kind of like in the OJ song,
So, oh yeah,
um,
backstabbers,
that's exactly,
backstabbers,
that's right.
smile
So
in your face every
all kind of
time.
want to take your place.
Face, yeah,
That's
backstab,
there. Now,
backstab.
I'm not attesting to the quality of your singing because obviously it's atrocious, but you have the basic idea. And I think that one of the reasons, um, kind of the umbrella justification for approving Proposition 27 is as follows: that the inherent God-given liberty that we as Homo sapiens have is free will and the ability to make choices, even if they're not necessarily the wisest. And that you probably don't need that quadruple cheeseburger. Chances are you got enough red meat in your system that won't be digested until you're like 103 years old. But I don't think anybody should tell you that you can't eat the burger of your choice. And I think that similarly, how much rum or bourbon or tequila do you need? Because obviously in excess, you may run the risk of damaging your liver and your gray matter. But should there be someone, and we already tried that in the United States with the Prohibition era,
Yeah, that didn't work out too
that
well.
didn't work out because what happened is it enriched Joseph Kennedy Sr. among others because people want that. They'll bootleg it. And what we saw in the Mob Museum in Las Vegas is that
Right.
it spurred organized crime because people are not going to give up alcohol. They're going to keep drinking, right? And and so there are many examples that you can bring to bear of people having freedom that they abuse. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't have freedom.
No.
Right.
I-
So
Right?
yeah,
Because we
yeah,
just because we abuse it as adults doesn't mean that it should be stripped away from us. I mean, you know, we are blessed in the United States of America in having possibly the greatest magnitude of free sources of information out there. Public libraries, the weekly newspapers, there's fewer and fewer of them, but there used to be all over the place, like
well,
the
your
LA
point,
Weekly.
yeah, your point is you can't claim ignorance anymore. You know what smoking and alcohol drinks financially, not just health wise, will do to you. Uh, Broken homes. Yeah, you can't say I was stupid and I just didn't know. Yeah, like you said, we're in an era of technology. You know what you're doing.
You know everything.
You
And
know
and
you know what
I've
you're
had
doing.
to I've had to modify some of my dietary practices because I was overindulging in sugar. So so basically I had to say, you know something, I may want those gummy bears. I may want those lollipops. I
May
may
want my
want that
hair back.
kettle corn. I may want my hair back. I've
May
always
want the
want my
hair
hair
back.
back.
It's
You
that
know,
sugar. I told you that sugar did that to
the
us.
sugar, that sugar
It
did it.
made that hair fall off
That's right.
premature
You
balding because of
guys.
that sugar.
Exactly.
Sugar. God damn, but that was some bad sugar we had, huh? See,
It's
that
like
good sugar didn't make it to the black neighborhoods. That black
that's probably
sugar.
what hurt. That's probably what hurt Jada. That's probably what that's probably what hurt Jada Pinkett Smith too. She had too
Okay,
much sugar.
that's too much, too much, too much,
But
too much.
but the point making that we're making is that you don't have freedom, you don't have liberty, you don't have the capacity to exercise your talents because some buddy above you, like Big Brother, decides that you'll be given freedom for a day or a week or a month or a year. That's something that is born in you. And just because you don't always exercise it in a prudent, practical, or pragmatic fashion, it doesn't mean that you're not entitled to it. Now, I do believe in restrictions, obviously, and we've already
Mhm,
discussed having to protect youth. But you
Mhm.
know something? I'll
mhm.
say this as a footnote to it. The 13, 14, 15-year-olds of today, they're not like their peers when we were growing up. When we were growing up, you truly were innocent. These kids, I mean, for better or for worse,
Yeah,
and I think it's mostly for worse, is that
Oh,
they know too much.
they're
They
good. They're gonna be hacking. That's for sure.
exactly.
Oh my gosh. So they better, if they're gonna pass that to me, they better have good security measures to ensure that they're not going to be hacking. Like just a few weeks ago, my sister's bank account was hacked.
Oh,
And and all it takes is clicking into a wrong link or answering one of those texts or emails or anything, and they already have everything about you unless you have certain measures. That VPN, what is called right now, there's
yeah,
supposed to be a
yeah,
security. If you don't have it, I mean, you're gonna be hacked. But that's another thing that, but hopefully there are going to be some measures going back to the 27. If it's going to pass, I hope that they do take measures to protect.
right.
uh
That's good.
yes.
yeah.
That's very
Absolutely
important.
correct. We're gonna have to wrap this up. So any parting uh I don't know if I should open up to you, Maurice. Sandra, do you have any opening, any closing statements? Because I said we do have to get off and leave and go to bed. That's what we have to. We have to end this. So
It
that's
is.
that's what we have to end this. So
Okay.
so we'll keep Maurice for I don't know why we should keep them from last, but go ahead, Sandra. Any
No,
parting
I
words?
just want to say thank you and keep on watching and telling your friends and family about our podcast. Any recommendation topics, please email us or contact us to make sure that we bring what you want to hear.
Right.
And again, thank you for endorsing our podcast.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ciao.
Thank you, Sandra. Maurice, did you see that? Did you hear that experience? How brief that was? It was a
Yeah,
true closing.
it was true closing. And and
So
just one more thing, one more thing. And as you know, we're in the midst of the Atlantic hurricane season, which runs from June to November.
okay.
And as you know, most storms take place after the beginning of August. And tragically, over this weekend, Hurricane Fiona struck the Puerto Rican archipelago, rendering the entire island system without power.
Wow.
Uh, and right now, there's some electricity restored. And in fact, there were even 2/3 of Puerto Rico was actually without water, according to the Puerto Rico Aqueduct and Sewer Authority.
Two
Um,
thirds.
yeah, and it was in October of 2017 when Hurricane Maria slammed into Puerto Rico, killing nearly 3,000 people and basically eradicating the power grid. Right now, Puerto Rico is in our prayers because of life-threatening and catastrophic flooding.
Right.
And when people suffer, um, perish, lose land and livelihood, the greatest danger from a hurricane like Fiona, for example, or Maria before that, and obviously hurricanes that affect other parts of the American mainland and the Caribbean and Central America.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
it's the it's the water more than the wind that is the devastating part of that elemental onslaught. So with
Okay.
that, my sign off is
Good.
prayers for Puerto Rico as well as to the Dominican
Prayers.
Republic,
Yes.
because the Dominican Republic now is suffering the onslaught
Okay.
of Fiona.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sandra and my Maurice. I'm about to say Michael. That's me. But
That's
anyway,
you.
I'm gonna I'm gonna have the last word. So I just want to say ditto with everything they said. It's been wonderful, and please share our podcast with your friends, family, and foes and frenemies, enemies, and so Raising a Cane, that's www.raisingacane.com. That's Kane,
Yay.
by the way. So we're speaking our mind, just like our show. So uh, been interesting. And so we hope that you subscribe and share our podcast. And we hope you have a great rest of the day, week, and year. And we'll see you or you'll hear us and see us in October. So coming up.
Oh,
So yeah, that's it. And so anyway, we're glad to bring you our spin, our experience, our thoughts, our controversy. So we're speaking our mind. This is Raising the Cane out. Until next time.
go
Thank
Dallas
you.
Cowboys.
That's right.
Bye.
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 Bye. Raising the Cane.